start actually understanding what this means, it's an existential threat to this anti-government slop that he's feeding these just like baby birds in the audience.
Dave Rubin's audience must be just absolutely...
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland dragging Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is lying about what Doge is doing. Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland calling him out. Let's get into it.
And the morons come out to defend him. Here is Dave Rubin sitting at a set wearing a nice suit purchased with probably the millions of dollars he received supposedly unwittingly from Russia.
Edward Gregorian.
Fake Edward Gregorian. Even Milo Yiannopoulos was laughing about this guy, and also blowing the whistle on the right-wingers who get funded by billionaires to buy views and then fake it till they make it, as he said. But leaving that aside, here's Dave Rubin showing A, that he's just a shill, B, that he is also a moron, and C, he's an incredible, like, misogynistic pig. It's gross. He has to do this because he's got to compensate. Remember, he lost a huge chunk of his audience when he and his husband had surrogate children. And so he's got to compensate. How can he get back into the brosphere?
The two. You know, it's interesting. These people on the left, they pray to the altar of the state. They love the state. They love the institutions. They love the programs, right? She loves rattling off numbers. We're going to cut this, that, the other thing. It doesn't mean that any of it's working. The irony is the lefties always tell you how horrible America is and how nothing works right and we should be more socialist and everything else. And yet, when we start looking at, okay, like if the general premise is, well, maybe something isn't quite right here, things aren't quite working right, we're going to clean it up. You see how hysterical they get when you go to clean it up. And the reason is they want power. Nobody wants children not to get food, but that doesn't mean that the programs
Pause it for a second.
giving food.
You know what? It's not so much that nobody wants people not to get children to get food, but there's a significant portion of people who are like, I don't care if they get food. That's their problem.
So here we have Dave Rubin calling out leftists, as he wants to call them. I would just consider that as like progressives, the people, not as far as like a left system. You know, anyone who's actually in office, I wouldn't say that they are necessarily upholding the values. And yeah, I mean, the people, as far as progressives go, have been calling out the, you know, there is not actual checks and balances happening. There hasn't been for a while. Trump is almost just like the celebration of this. He has finally came into where it can be a complete tyranny. And yeah, I mean, none of these conservatives, they can't understand, again, the empire is diminishing in power. Since we're not going off of checks and balances, well, yes, the system is falling. And the whole point of it is that conservatives are doubling down. They're going into like a fantasy world now to where they're going to be able to change everything and make things better when they're not. They're out here, they're withdrawing from the climate agreements, they're pulling out of the World Health Organization. Like, they're doing all of these things that is doubling down on creating tyranny, like creating the issues. Again, it's nothing but destroying the checks and balances. It's just making it more so. There's nothing that's actually being done to help the system of democracy whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, survival of the fittest. It's not my job to pay taxes to feed other people's children. In fact, we just saw them cut a ton of U.S. aid. Literally, there's $500 million worth of food that is going to essentially rot on docks because of what they've cut. So it's not that they're like, well, we're trying to keep children from being fed, but are we withholding $500 million worth of food because we want to prove a point? Yeah. All right. Well, whatever. That's what it comes down to. Go ahead.
How hysterical they get when you go to clean it up. And the reason is they want power. Nobody wants children not to get food, but that doesn't mean that the programs that are giving food to the kids or after school programs, that any of it's being run properly. Again, we're just looking at the books, as I tweeted out this morning.
No, this is a total lie.
Yeah.
They're not just looking at the books. The inspector general, if they cared about auditing, they wouldn't have fired every inspector general that is working in these agencies. They are 100% not just looking at the books.
Right. Right.
It's just like a lie. It's just a total lie.
There are dozens of examples that you could come up with of the practical impacts that this has had, but they need this to just be online, liberal hysteria. Because if people start actually understanding what this means, it's an existential threat to this anti-government slop that he's feeding these just like baby birds in the audience.
Dave Rubin's audience must be just absolutely the dumbest human beings alive. Go ahead.
Food to the kids or after school programs, that any of it's being run properly. Again, we're just looking at the books, as I tweeted out this morning. If you were running a business, I run a couple businesses, right? If I'm running my businesses in the production company that runs Rubin Report, if I called my accountant this afternoon and I was like, can I see the books? I just want to see, I have X amount of employees, how much we're paying them, and we're doing this on.
For sure. I mean, looking at the books, right, that means like sanctioning officials who work at the International Criminal Court, which, I mean, if any of you losers who don't understand what that means, it means that those are the ones they were issuing arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and for the war crimes in Gaza. They are suggesting that Canada becomes the 51st state. They've formed a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. They want to annex Greenland, and they want to seize the Panama Canal. It's all of these. They want to make luxury resorts on Gaza, on the depopulated Gaza under U.S. control. That's what they want to do. It sounds a lot different than checking the books. No, this is full on hubris. This is full on just like conceited, does not even see what they're doing, and they are creating all of these enemies, whether they know it or not. The conservatives are doubling down and completely just sputtering incoherence and going up in smoke.
On overhead and equipment and travel. Can I just see the books? Because I want to see how much money we're making, and are there any places to tighten this up and spend a little bit better and blah, blah, blah. And my accountant was like, no, you can't see the books. Or the accountant was like, maybe next week. Or the accountant wasn't picking up the phone.
All right, this story is stupid. Go forward. Where's the part where he starts talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau?
Because Trump is shutting down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is a bureau that she helped create back in 2011 to make sure that, people weren't being screwed over by banks. Again, the intentions, what is it with Democrats? The intentions are always good. Did the agency do anything? Is it functional? Is it a giant slush fund? Well, we're trying to figure that out. But she's very upset.
Pause it. Wait. Like, what do you mean we're trying to figure this out? Like, they've been operating in like a different kind of, like, they've been operating 60 miles down below the surface of the earth, and we're having to dig this out. The Republicans have controlled the House for 2 years. They've had hearing after hearing. We know exactly what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has done.
Yes.
We know exactly what it's done. It has saved U.S. consumers $21 billion. That's the amount of compensation, principal reduction, canceled debts, other consumer relief from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau enforcement. They had just propagated a rule about banks cannot shift around payments out of your bank account to increase your overdraft fees.
Yeah.
They can't manipulate the order of when you have pulled money out of your bank to increase the amount of fees. They said your medical debt cannot be on your credit report to prevent you from getting a loan or from getting an apartment because you got hit by a bus one time. They have imposed civil money penalties on companies that violate.
And that's the biggest issue, is that a lot of these things where they're just checking the books, as far as, Dave Rubin is saying, these are all going to become self-inflicted wounds. As far as, we have Elon Musk calling USAID being run by left-wing Marxists. the actual words that he says, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. The USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, is created by our empire, right? Just as coming at it almost from a conservative angle. It is to display soft power on countries. But these people that are so-called checking the books, they are taking away from the soft power. They're taking away these things. They don't even know what they're doing. They're not even being good conservatives. Even if you're a conservative and you're watching this, they're not even being good conservatives as far as like being the most dominant. They're literally selling it all under the river for more money. He is putting the blame on leftists. They're going to continue to make leftists look crazy, but they are just doing smoke and mirrors so that they can cash out, and they're not even being good conservative leaders. They are giving up this idea of soft power as far as an empire goes, because the USAID, I mean, for sure, there's all these different humane things, but as far as its benevolence, it is used to take out threats to the government, to the empire. Just look at it. Look at it.
Violate the law. They have saved $6.1 billion worth of savings annually for consumers on overdraft stuff and insufficient fund fee policies.
It costs $800 million a year to fund this agency, and it has so far returned $21 billion to consumers
directly.
And if you want to use the business thing that he's trying to allude to here, I mean, gosh, it would be great if the government got a bunch of money out of nowhere from an Edward Gregorian, but all of this is transparent because it's for the public good. It's the government. It's not a private company. It's not the Twitter files. This is an X. We know where these things go. And we know that the CFPB, $800 million a year, $21 billion return to everyday people. And you know what you would call that if you were talking about it as a business anyway? Good return on investment.
And that doesn't even count the sort of indirect implications of people knowing, oh, there's a cop on the beat. We're not gonna go and break into this car, as it were. Continue. And wait with it. Remember, Dave Rubin's all about ideas. Listen if you hear one sort of like fact, other than the fact that Elizabeth Warren is a shrill woman.
Yeah, I just wanted
which he describes.
I went back a tiny bit just to see how he describes Elizabeth Warren here.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to Elizabeth Warren, because she's an interesting lady. Now, she loves murdering babies. That's the main thing about her. She really
pause
loves
it.
murdering babies.
I'm sorry now. Wait a second. Is this guy getting all biblical? Is he now anti-abortion? Is that his big thing? She loves murdering babies? Excuse me. How many of those IVF, in those, like when you guys had a surrogate mother, how many of those IVF conceptions were thrown out? Because it wasn't just two.
And again, a lot of these are just word salads that mean nothing. Dave Rubin is attempting to be a grifter. He is, wanting to create domestic enemies. He wants to say, Elizabeth Warren, someone who is going against us. And again, it's just to soften the blow of this death spiral. This is a death spiral of the empire because of the lack of checks and balances, because of the lack of democracy. And as that's going down, as this whole ship is going down, it will be nothing but finger pointing and cashing out.
I want to know, people, Dave Rubin's audience should be asking about this. If Dave Rubin is very concerned about abortion as an issue, and his audience knows that that life starts at conception, they should start digging into how many babies Dave Rubin has directly killed.
They should look into that.
I mean...
So there we have it, you guys. We have Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland going after Dave Rubin for his buffoonery. Emma Vigeland and Sam Seder are going to point out the cracks in his logic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.